Hello and welcome to lecture 2 of Blender to Unity 3D game engine. Preparing your 3D models from Blender to Unity. So we already last time we had this introduction to Unity game engine. We already have Unity installed and also Blender installed. We have some models from Blender from last lecture. From last module, that was Blender course. We had this cup model at least. We had some textures as well for the wall, and you could actually go ahead and unwrap all the textures to one cube, for example, or you might want to make this kind of pile as well, and then you can extract the materials, and we're gonna do that. But this is actually the one where we take those 3D models from Blender from this folder and use them in Unity. There are two ways of doing that. So this is the second lecture. Next up we're gonna have the basics of level design and lighting, and then lastly working with 3D models in Unity and building an experience to a target platform. Okay, let's go ahead with Unity and Blender. So exporting from Blender to Unity 20 or 21, there are two possibilities to export. It's possible to use actually the blend file in Unity directly. So basically when you open your blend file in Unity, you will be able to edit it in Blender, and then when you save it, it will be different in Unity. But this is good to remember. The next way to do is to do a FBX file. So when you are done with your blend model, it might be huge and it might not work correctly when you are kind of in a big environment and you want to reduce your computing power so that you will be able to play these games fluently. Therefore, you need a FBX file, and this XBX file is harder to edit in Blender afterwards. So kind of lastly, make this FBX file when you are ready with Blender file. So for example, your last day could be kind of making this FBX file and getting rid of these blend files and putting them to another folder. So we're gonna go through that. We also maybe have some problems with the origin, so where the object turns around. For example, if the origin is here, then the object is rotating along the origin, and it also forms differently. So the origin usually should be in the middle of the object. If it's a door, you need the kind of the angle to open it, and you need to modify the origin so that the actual door opens, but that's a different thing. So we're gonna fix that too. Sometimes in mesh you have these normals. So there is, for example, a face of 3D model, and it's kind of flipped around, so you won't be able to see it. You see it through. So sometimes you need to recalculate it outside. So going to edit mode to mesh normals and recalculate outside, so all of the mesh is recalculated on the outside and not from the inside. And that's if needed. Your models might not show up correctly. That's because of that. That's why it's good to use blend file first in Unity and see if everything is correct. So blend file works in Unity asset folder. You need to create a models folder and then just drag and drop the blend file there, including the textures. If you have procedural textures, that works in the way. You need to modify them a little bit in Unity. For example, this glass material might be quite difficult to work in Blender and then bring it up like it was in Unity, but you can try to do that as well. So probably you need to change the shader a little bit in Unity side in order to get it transparent. Blend file, using this blend file, it's fast. However, the materials don't work as it is and needs to be placed separately. It's good if you're still working on the model in Blender side, like I said. And then we have the second option, which is a FBX file. So this is one of those object files, model files that is widely used. It's way more efficient and faster if you are done with 3D modeling. So in Blender, you need to unpack those files before doing it. So you will unpack those materials to the same location, and then you use this folder as well with the model. And now the texture folder is formed in the location, and then you create Blender file, export FBX, and you do a couple of settings here. You put the path mode to copy everything. Then you select the actual model that what you want to include to your FBX file. Maybe you don't want the lighting in Blender. Maybe you don't want the camera in Blender to come as well, because everything like lighting and camera is usually included in Unity side. And then place all the files in asset folder. So here's a little image as well. I'm going to include these slides there as well, so you can see external data, unpack all in the files. So you will unpack these normals textures and then use them in Unity. Here you can also select our path mode to off, copy, and then patch mode off in FBX. Apply transform if needed, so you will get correct sizes of what you're gonna export. Yep, so basically that's it, and we can go to the actually Unity side. So now we have a empty scene here, and we have the asset folder where we place all of our models, all of our sounds, scripts, and so on. So we go ahead in Asset Store, right click and create a folder, and let's name it to models. So this is the folder where all of our models will go. And nothing else needs to be done here. So we will go to Blender side. And here in Blender, I've modeled this kind of pile. You can model this as well. In the Blender course, we also added textures and normals to a wall. So you can unwrap this individually, or you can smart unwrap this as well. And then you can add those textures like tiles or whatever you find from textures.org, for example. And you can use normal map or just the regular diffuse map, or even bump map if you want. I've also included here in the shader editor, I've added a normal map and the base texture here. Okay, sometimes you will see this pink texture. It means that something is missing. So what do I do next? That happens in Blender size and Unity side quite a bit. It means that your file don't know where to find the textures. So what to do now? You can go to internet and search for what to do with the pink textures and so on. It's usually, you can remember, Blender doesn't know where it finds. And this happens when you change between locations between the folders quite often. So I know what to do. I don't have to go to Google. So if you go to File, if you go to External Data in File, and here you can actually go to Find Missing Files. And then I know that my missing files, the textures are missing. I will go to Desktop, and then I will go to Textures, because I know that my texture is going to be here, and click on Find Missing Files. I can see that my albedo and normal textures are here. Ta-da! And now they are back working. Also here, if I'm rotating this thing, I can see that, okay, I want to use this as a door or some kind of thing. So it rotates along the origin. But this is not very good thing. I usually want to add the origin in the middle, that it's correct, because it's quite difficult to change in Unity side. So what I need to do here is to go right click, snap, and then cursor to world origin. So it changes the actual 3D cursor to world origin. Then I will go to object, set origin, and then origin to 3D cursor. So you can see that the origin point is now moving there. And now when I'm rotating it, it's rotating correctly along the right axis here. All right. Now we are kind of done with Blender file, so we could use it in Unity. So it forms a separate file when you put these things to Unity, but let's go to Unity side. And then we have this model folder here. So what we need to do now is to drag and drop those blend files to this folder. So we can show it in Explorer, for example, to bring up the folder to my main desktop. And then we can search for this Paasikivi. By the way, that's one of the presidents of Finland. It's kind of funny. Finnish people who understand Finnish will understand what is Paasikivi. But I usually put these two files here. I have this kind of ghost file here. It doesn't matter because it's gonna create it anyway when you drag and drop those. So let's drag and drop those to models file. Okay, what happens here? It's forming the actual models here inside the models file, and when I'm dragging and dropping this here, I can see that the model is now there. Okay, the problem here is that also I have camera and I have light here. I don't want to use this Blender camera or light, so I'm gonna disable those ones. So I'm gonna see only the cube that I have created in Blender. So basically the materials are not showing up. What needs to be done is to go back to models, show in Explorer, go to desktop, and I remember that I had these textures here. So I just drag and drop these textures folders to models folder. And then it asks, also because I had normal map, it recognizes that my textures have a normal map. So a material is using a texture as a normal map. The texture must be marked as normal map in the import settings. Actually, it's doing it here. It's doing it automatically. If I want to fix it, and take a look here, I don't have the normal map marked correctly. Fix it so the normal map also comes above the object, and it's actually automatically search for the right material there too. Okay, one interesting thing here is that, like I said before, this is the first option and quick way of modifying these using Blender and Unity simultaneously. So basically I can just double click this Paasikivi model here. And what happens, it opens up a Blender and already finds the materials here. So what you can do here, if I join these areas together, and then I go to edit mode, for example, and then I select these vertices here. So I can now elongate this from the z-axis up Remember here that also the texture is gonna elongate it, so that's probably not what you want to do. You need to unwrap it again. But if I do, this is a demonstration, if I do a change here, and then I save my work, I go to back to Unity, it changes here as well. So this is very efficient way of doing it. And see here as the origin point is also here. So if you are rotating this, I'm using E, rotating this, so it rotates along the actual origin point. And by the way, Control Z, you can go back and then if you made a mistake, and then F, you can go close to the object by focusing on it. All right, let's get rid of these ones now, and then you can see that when you get rid of these ones here, you can see that this turns into red, so it doesn't find the file where it is located. That's a common thing. So let's get rid of this this thing completely. So what we want to do next is to do our FBX file. So we will go to our Blender scene that we had before. We will save this, make sure this is the one that is on your desktop. We will select our cube that we modeled, and then we will go to File, External Data, and then Unpack Resources. No packed files to unpack. Okay, there were no files to unpack. Whatever, you might have files to unpack if you have many textures there, but I've done it already. Okay, good. Then here is also a possibility for a problem. So if I go to edit mode and select all, I go to mesh, normals, and recalculate outside. Probably you have write this already, but you can just make sure that everything is recalculated outside. Okay, so if any of these faces are missing and it's here on the other side, you need to recalculate it outside. Anyway, now it's done. So you know where your materials and textures are located, actually texture file. So you can go to export. And this is the last phase. So basically, if you don't need to modify your blend file anymore, you create these FBX files. So go to File, Export, and FBX file. So I'm gonna create my Paasikivi FBX file here. I'm gonna delete this one. Okay, so here the path mode needs to be copy, and then I want to limit it only to selected objects here in scene collection. So I'm selected only the cube. I don't want to include camera and light there. They are unnecessary in FBX. Sometimes you can apply the transform. We can try to use that as well. And that's it. Object types, it's going to select everything like here, and then export FBX. And now in Unity side, we should see, if we go to show in Explorer, we can go to desktop where I put my things, and we will see that our FBX file is here. Type is 3D object, so, and it's created right now, so I can just drag and drop this to my models folder. Excellent. So now you can see that it only has one material, and and this kind of mesh. So that's just one folder. So that's really clean and lightweight. But the materials are still missing. If you go to Show in Explorer, you need to find the materials. It's actually it's either this one created this FBM file or the textures file. It doesn't matter, they both have the same materials, but let's try this first. Let's try this first to models folder. And then actually it finds the, if you recalculate it, it finds the materials right away. And then here, if you are moving the camera, like let's think this is the player. If you are moving the camera so that it's facing towards the paasikivi, you can see it in your game when you click on play. So it's gonna recalculate a little bit, and then that's the game that is happening there. Remember, you have also this kind of snapping option here. So if you snap things, it kind of snaps in the location. This is smoother one. And when you click on play again, it places the object right where it was before. Of course, you are able to modify the size here like this, and you are able to rotate it as well. So that's very efficient. If you want to create more of these, you can just Control D. I think it was Shift D in Blender side, but Control D here, so you can create many of these piles, and then maybe build a nice formation here of stones. And then maybe move the camera a little bit so we will see it in our game engine scene. Like this, and maybe rotate it a little bit. We are turning our head here. Okay, so we'll see our stone pile here nicely. And then when we click on play, it's gonna be showing up in our game and in our experience as well when we build our game. Okay, thank you very much, and see you in the next lecture.